Hey Sugar Drops! So today I'm going to be talking about the top 13 books of 2013. A little late because it's January 9th, but it's okay, I can still talk about it. So I'm going to get right to the point, and I'm going to go through the 13, some of which the books I own, and I will show to you, some of which I borrowed from friends or from the library, and I can't show them to you, but I will talk about them anyway. Okay, so this is in no particular order, by the way. My first top book in 2013 was Catching Fire by Suzanne Collins. First off, this was not the first time that I've read Catching Fire. I read it before 4 years ago, and I reread it right before I went to see the movie. I just think that this book was so beautifully written. It just had so many great moments, and the arena and the character development, I think everything about it was just great. And I will admit, 4 years ago when I read this, I was totally Team Gale. But now that I reread it, I have been persuaded to Team PETA. So that's what this book did for me this year, and it was always my favorite in the series, and it's always been one of my number one favorite books, and it definitely still is. My number 2 book to go right along with Catching Fire is Mockingjay by Suzanne Collins. And again, I also read Mockingjay about 4 years ago. I kind of marathoned the 3 books when I got them 4 years ago. And the first time I read this book, I absolutely hated it. I thought it was the worst book in the world, and I was like, why did she even write that book? But this time when I read it, I fell in love with it. I don't know if it's maturity or what, but I just thought it is so beautiful. It's tragic, but it's beautiful. It's like beautifully tragic, if that's even a thing. I thought it was amazing. It just a million times better. And I love all of the characters. There's so many characters in this book, and I fell in love with like 90% of them. So this was definitely one of my favorites, mainly because I found a new love for it. Number 3 is kind of almost a hard book for me to talk about because it makes me so emotional, and it is A Walk to Remember by Nicholas Sparks. I saw this movie years and years and years ago, and I loved the movie as much as you can love this story. So I picked up the book, and I decided to read it. In the beginning, I was kind of like, oh, I kind of think the movie was a little better. But as I got more into it, my faith was restored. It was an amazing book, and Jamie, the main girl, is such a role model. Like, what girl doesn't want to be just like her? And I'll admit, okay, I cried so hard when I read this book. I have never sobbed so much in my life before. Never. I was sobbing. Like, I couldn't breathe. I was sobbing so hard. When my dog died, I didn't cry this hard. It's such a heartbreaking book, but it has so many themes and morals and lessons, and I absolutely loved it. My 4th book of 2013 is Twilight by Stephenie Meyer. This is another reread of the year, just like Catching Fire and Mockingjay. I read this about 4 years ago, and then probably again about 3 years ago. And then I saw the movie, and I think the movie kind of killed what I felt for this book series. It'll always be one of my very, very favorite book series. But I think the movies made me forget just how great it was. And so when I reread this, I was like, wow, this is actually a really, really good story. So much better than the book or than the movie leads you to believe it is. So I re-fell in love with it, kind of, and I'm just such a romantic, and I really think it is one of the sweetest romances. I know it's a very hit or miss book with people. If you don't like it, you hate it, and if you like it, you love it. And I'm one of the ones that likes it and loves it, so definitely one of my favorites this year. Next one I don't have because I borrowed it from my friend, but it is The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald. And this one I also read right before the movie came out, and I am so glad I did. I'm not a classics person. I don't read classics because I'm such a fantasy, like, YA, and classics just has never been my thing. But I was like, I'm going to pick up The Great Gatsby, and I'm going to read it because I want to go see the movie. So I read it, and I was blown away. It was so good. It's set in the 20s, which is my favorite era, and I love the 20s. The point of view is just great. I like that it's not in Gatsby's point of view. I just love it. The book is just flawless. I just love it. I love it so much. All right, my 6th book is The Power of Six by Pittacus Lore, and I believe it's the 3rd book in the Loreen Legacies. The reason that I liked this one so much is because it's the first time that my favorite character is introduced, and that is, for any of you that read, it's number 7, Marina. And in this book, they do multiple point of views, and I am one of those strange people that hates multiple point of views. But it was pulled off flawlessly in this book. I absolutely loved it. I loved the multiple point of views. And as always, just like always in this series, it was so suspenseful the whole entire time, and it never, left a dull moment ever. 7th favorite book is very cliche. It's Divergent by Veronica Roth, which I don't have. I have the next 2, but I don't have the first one. I think it's just such a great debut novel. Where did she even come from? Who was Veronica Roth? But she just shot onto the scene and did great. And I loved all the characters in the story. There's so many characters, but I loved all of them. And I have to admit, 4 is probably my 2nd favorite character, of all time. I love him. I think the whole concept of the Divergent thing is, wicked. Wow, whoever would have thought of that? Okay, probably a lot of people. I don't read a lot of dystopian novels, so I thought it was brilliant. But I really liked the faction idea, and I just thought it was such a great book. I read it in one day. I just sat down and whizzed through that thing. So, good job, Veronica. We share a name. On my list is Scarlet by Marissa Meyer, and it's the sequel to Cinder. And I read Cinder also this year, but I liked Scarlet so much more. I thought it was just great. I loved the new characters. Wolf is, the greatest character, ever, and I really dig Scarlet a lot, too. I just thought it was, such a good story. It was so intense the whole time, and you're just constantly what's gonna happen, and then things happen, and you're like, what, Marissa, please, what are you talking about, what are you doing, because that's how I felt the whole novel. But I thought it was fabulous, and I read it in a day, just like Divergent. I loved it. Number 9 is surprisingly another classic. It is The Secret Garden by Frances Burnett, and this is my really, really torn up copy. It's 80 years old. But I read this book for the Booktubeathon this summer as my classic, and I'm so, so glad I did, because I absolutely adored it. I thought it just had such a wonderful theme. This book has the most motivational and inspiring theme ever. I absolutely loved it, and I couldn't put it down. I actually had to buy the audio version on my phone so I could listen to it while I was cleaning my room and cleaning the bathroom, which is what I was doing that week. But I wanted to finish reading it, so I had to buy it on audio so I could listen to it. And I love this story so much. It's just so sweet and inspiring. My number 10 is Vanished by Meg Cabot. And I bought this book several years ago because it was $8.99. No, it had another sticker on it originally. It was originally cheaper than that. It was $5.99 at Books A Million, so I was like, sure. So I picked it up, and it's actually 2 books in one. It's When Lightning Strikes and Codename Cassandra, but we'll count it as one book because it's a bind-up. So I also read this for the Booktubeathon for my 500 pages or more book, and I love it. It's such a unique idea, okay? It's about this girl who gets struck by lightning, and when she sleeps, if she sees a picture of a missing kid or a missing person and then sleeps, she wakes up and knows exactly where they are. Who thinks of things like that? That is just mind-blowingly brilliant. I think it is such a cool concept. And in the book, it's pretty much nonstop action. And this girl's a teenage girl, and she acts like a teenage girl. She feels like a teenage girl. I feel that crazy too sometimes. I really do. And it's great. And let me tell you, girls, if you're into the romance, Rob and Jess, they're a pretty hot couple, okay? They don't want to be she wants to be a couple. He don't really want to be a couple, but he kind of does. You feel me? I want them to be a couple. They are my OTP. Forever my OTP. Always and always my OTP. My number 11 was Winter Girls by Lori Halse Anderson, and I'm going to make this short and sweet because once I get sentimental, I talk for a long time. But this book is about a girl who's dealing with anorexia, and it was just a very romantic novel. Not romantic as in love and relationships and stuff, just as in just romantics, you know. It shows her story as she hits bottom and then slowly is finding her way to the top. And I think it's very eye-opening to those of us that don't feel like that, and is very, very, very moving. And I just thought it was fabulous. Number 12, almost done, so you can quit listening to me talk, is Charlie St. Cloud by Ben Sherwood. I knew this was a movie, but I never saw it. So I decided to read the book, and holy cow! I didn't know a romance novel could be so like intense. Like every time you thought you knew what was going on, you got thrown like a major curveball. Like don't ever think you know what's going on because you have no idea. I just thought it was such a good book, and it was a very strange love story, but a very, very pretty one. And I really, really just loved it. And now we're to number 13, the last one. Guess what I'm going to pick? It's a book I own, but it's not with me because I'm letting everyone in the world borrow it because it's so great. Yeah, you got it right. The Book Thief by Marcus Zuzak. It just, so many feels, so many emotions. First off, it was beautifully written. Beautifully written. I read a review on Goodreads, and it said, if you like to eat words like ice cream, this book is for you, and that is so true. It also said, if you love to have your heart broken and healed on the same page, this book is for you. That is so true. Like, whoever wrote that review, thank you, because you put what I'm feeling into words. The book, I love the point of view of the narrator being death. That is so cool and all-knowing, and I just absolutely loved that. That was one of my favorite parts of the whole book. And I'll tell you, the book left me in tears. It left me in tears. And, okay, a lot of books do that. But still, it was great, and I really, really loved it. So if you watched this whole thing, comment below with Kellen Lutz has a hot bod. Yeah, actually do that because it's true. Anyway, thank you for watching. I'm really thankful for those of you that do. I'm really trying to get my start here, and I really appreciate the support. So those were my top 13 books, and I will see you next week. Bye!